Howdy, everybody. I want to welcome you to Craft Beer Magazines. We currently have with us the founder and the head brewer of Dogfish Head Brewery, Sam Calagione, right?
How you doing, Bernard?
Doing wonderful. Now, Sam, when we do our interviews, we want to start off with this one question for everybody is, first things first, when did you first fall in love with craft beer?
The year was probably late 1992, which is the year I graduated from college. I moved to New York City and I was taking some writing courses at Columbia, thinking maybe I want to be a writer or a professor. And to pay my bills, I worked at a great first generation beer bar. And as a waiter, I got one staff drink after every shift. And in 1 week, I tried Chimay Red and Sierra Nevada Celebration, and it made me fall in love with quality beer. Before that, I was just kind of in love with the quantity beers.
Aren't we all?
Mhm.
Um, Here's a question I want to know. Some people out there might not know about your brewery. I mean, I got some information right here. Basically, Dogfish Head grew 400% between 2003 and 2006, and you guys have been featured very prominently in a lot of things like TV shows and movies, i.e., Beer Wars and the TV show Brewmaster. What got you into making your own brew? I mean, I'm a fan, but I really don't think I can take that extra step to want to create a brew and have everybody drink it and be such success like you are.
Well, I mean, we started Dogfish. I was 24, 25 years old when I opened the brewery in coastal Delaware, and we didn't have much money to start the brewery, so we were the smallest brewery in the country when we opened. We brewed maybe 10 or 12 gallons per batch, and so we've just kind of grown incrementally, every year. And back then we would do maybe 20 or 30 gallons of beer a day, and now we make about 7 or 8 thousand cases of beer a day. But our intention hasn't changed. The scale has, but our philosophy of brewing and our passion for experimentation and what we called an off-centered approach to brewing still remains the same. So basically, we've worked hard to kind of create a niche within the greater craft brewing niche for beers that are sort of culinary inspired. We'll look at the entire culinary landscape for potential ingredients to add to our beers.
That's great. I love the fact that, I mean, when I first found out about your brewery, it was through the movie Beer Wars, and you weren't shipping to California at that time. And as soon as you were shipping, me and my friends were able to get a Midas Touch, Palo Santo, and we fell in love with everything you've done so far. Um, Another thing about your brewery I've noticed is, especially since the first episode of Brewmasters, you guys always like to go out the box and find other people to do beer with. Again, the first episode of Brewmasters features Bitches Brew, the Taj beer that you guys made. What has been your favorite collaboration with other industries about beer?
Well, I mean, we have collaborated with not just other breweries, but wineries and musicians and artists and artisanal food companies. And I'd say a current one that we're really having fun with is our friends at Brooklyn Brine, and they're an artisanal pickle making company right in the heart of Brooklyn, New York City. And I was eating their pickles one day while drinking one of our 60-minute IPAs, and I thought the bitter, salty pickle went great with our hoppy bitter IPA. So I called them up, or I emailed them, and an hour later, the owner emailed me back, and he's like, "Dude, I'm reading your book. I love Dogfish. It's in my fridge. Let's do a project together." Because I told him I wanted to figure out a way to infuse hops into a pickle. So after about a year of R&D, we released jars of hop pickle, which is Brooklyn Brine Dogfish Head hop pickle, and it's infused with a reduction of our 60-minute IPA and some Cascade hop oil. And you can buy the jars on dogfish.com and at select grocery stores around the country.
That's amazing that beer is getting so far to even go into pickles. After I first saw the movie Beer Wars, I'm curious, what was it like for you to see yourself be as essentially positioned as the main focus or one of the main focus in the movie. Has it made a big impact, or was it a really big impact to the business when it came out?
Yeah, it definitely was, and my hats off to Annette Beron, the woman who made that film. Was a real visionary and tenacious, and that film did a great job of showing the perspective of the small independent brewers in a very competitive and crowded marketplace. At the time she was making the film, she was following, I think, 5 or 6 different breweries around. So we assumed we would just be one of the 5 or 6. But I think once she started editing the film, story wise, she decided to just focus on 2 of the breweries. And so we were one of the 2. And so obviously we got a lot of a lot of airtime in that movie. And yeah, I still get emails every week, if not every day, of people that saw that movie. And it's really neat to see how many of them were affected by that movie and now choose to buy beers only made by small independent breweries.
I think that movie was one of the bigger pushes for me to get into craft beer, to see how much passion that your company and other companies take into making a quality product for people out there, and how much better it can be instead of having something that's mass produced for the general consumption of everybody else. And again, after seeing that, I really just want to say thank you for your push and your contribution to craft beer and making everybody else step their game up to make the best beer we can possibly get. No, thank you. Um, Also, I love the show Brewmasters. I mean, as soon as it did show the first episode out here, I was able to get a bottle of the Bitches Brew. I still have it cellared, and I'm curious. I know you only lasted 6 episodes. Do you think that there may be an opportunity to revisit the show, maybe in a YouTube format or something like that?
We had a lot of fun making that show, and we were very proud of it. It was not I guess, a great fit for the advertisers and that network. We now have, our own full-time storyteller at Dogfish, a guy named Justin, and so he makes all our own videos that we make ourselves, and we kind of like the freedom of the DIY approach. So never say never, but we're not. We've been approached to do some other TV things, and just decided it wasn't really something we wanted to focus on right now. We're in the midst of a big expansion, and we like telling our own stories, so that's what we're doing for now.
Beautiful. Another thing was I was reading one of your books. So I'm currently reading She Said Wine, He Said Beer. And I think that has been one of the most opening books I have read about beer. And the reason why I say that is because you actually give a nod to a bigger brewery for how their beer works well with pairings. I read in there Heineken works really well with oysters, if I remember correctly. I mean, how was that experience of you getting together with, I think her name is Mary,
Marnie, yeah.
Marnie, about creating a book just for people to sit there and have a party?
Uh, Yeah, I mean, the book was born out of a series of dinners that we did. She's a sommelier wine expert based out of Philly, and that's only 2 hours from my brewery. So we met at an industry event, and we hit it off, and we said, hey, let's go on the road and do a series of dinners that we pair each course of food with a beer and a wine. So we did that, and people really loved the idea. And it's amazing how many people are cross drinkers, people that drink wine, they drink beer, they drink spirits. And we learned that a lot of people that were just getting into one of the 2 had a great interest in exploring all kinds of fermented beverages in their context with food. So to have one book all around both beverages kind of makes it a one-stop shop. And you're right. There's a lot of great information in that book with food recipes, tasting recipes, or tasting formats to make it really easy for people to host beer and wine food pairings in their home. And that's probably the most rewarding thing from that book is all the emails we get about, hey, I bought your book. I invited 8 people over to my house. I turned 5 wine lovers onto really good beers, and I turned 3 beer wine lovers onto really good wine. So I think it goes in all directions, and that's good for both industries.
Well, what is new for Dogfish Head in 2013? What are you guys going to do this year? Anything mind blowing or out of left field like you always do?
Well, we started doing beer and wine hybrids back in the mid 90s. Our first one was Raison d'etre, made with beet sugars and raisins, and uh, uh, it has beet sugars, raisins, and Belgian yeast. It's kind of a very red wine uh, sort of beer. And so now and then we did Midas Touch, which is made with white muscat grapes and saffron. So we've come out with a whole line of beer wine hybrids. I believe we're the first brewery in the world to have a focus on these beer wine hybrids. And this year we released our most recent, which is sort of a red wine slash IPA hybrid, and we use California Syrah grapes in our 60-minute base recipe, and we dose the Syrah grape must into the IPA as it's fermenting. So the yeast is eating both the fruit sugars and the grain sugars. And it's got a beautiful red hue to the beer and very dry, fruity, complex food beer. So we released that one early this year, and it's been a huge success, and we're uh, plan to grow that brand 85% next year.
Beautiful.
It's called 61, meaning 60 minute plus one ingredient, and the one ingredient is Syrah grape must.
That sounds very interesting. Uh, well, Sam, I think I'm tapped for questions right now and just interesting things about the brewery. Is there anything else you want to add to this interview?
I think early on, we were talking a little bit when we talked about Brooklyn Brine and Bitches Brew about our brewery's affinity for collaboration. And I know usually in business you're taught always to try and be focused on beating your competition. And something that I think makes Dogfish fairly unique is how um, committed to focusing our energy on positive uh, attributes and positive interactions with other human beings instead of the negative that comes with competing and trying to beat somebody. So we focus on collaboration instead of competition. And that's led us on some really wonderful journeys, not just to make pickles, but we collaborate with winemakers like our friend Jared, who owns Alexander Nicole Vineyards in Washington State, and he procures all the Viognier grape must for us for our Noble Rot beer. And then we collaborate with musicians. In this fall, we'll be releasing a beer called American Beauty in collaboration with the band The Grateful Dead. It's made with granola, honey and almond forward granola as an ingredient in a big American pale ale. So that spirit of collaboration is equally important to the spirit of creativity for what we do at Dogfish Head. And we look forward to the release of that American Beauty beer later this year.
Thank you for the
Thank you for the
save.
save. Yeah, no.
Is there any other brewery you'd like to collaborate with that makes something amazing? I mean, I've had have your I think it's Saison de
Uh,
Toronto, the one with you and Stone, right?
that Dogfish Stone and Victory
Yeah.
stays on to buff beer every other year. And then every other year we also do a beer called Life and Limb, or a series of beers called Life and Limb. That's Dogfish in Sierra Nevada.
Oh, wow.
That's a really fun one that we do. But yeah, there's you never say never, but we've gotten to work with a lot of our heroes at different brewing companies, and we'll continue to innovate with our brothers and sisters in the beer industry.
Well, again, Sam, I want to thank you for the time you've given Craft Beer Magazine for this interview, and I can't wait to drink more of your beer. You have a great day.
Thank you, Bernard. Thanks for including us in this, and thanks for supporting and spreading the word about good beer out there.